मेरे आका दा हुस्नो जमाल सुबहान अल्लाह सुबहान अल्लाह सुबहान अल्लाह मेरे आका दा हुस्नो जमाल सुबहान अल्लाह
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear listeners, you are listening live to Radio Ghausia on 454.100. We are live from Jamia, Masjid, Whitaker Street, Batley, and today's program is going to be a very special program for you and ourselves. We are very blessed to be within the company of Hazrat Imam Asim Hussain, Damat Barakatuhumul Aliyah. He has taken out his valuable time, his precious time, and come to our masjid today so that he can appear on our radio show. Imam Sahib, first of all, I would like to thank you very much and welcome you to our program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Jazakumullah khair, ahsan al-jazaa to yourself, the brothers, the management here for inviting myself to come and be interviewed by yourselves, inshallah.
MashaAllah, we are very lucky, alhamdulillah, to have you, and we do thank you from the bottom of our hearts that you've taken time out of your very busy schedule to be with us today. So we're going to get started, inshallah. We're going to ask Imam Sahib a variety of questions, both personal and Deeni questions as well. And we want all brothers and sisters who are listening at the moment to stop whatever you are doing, switch off the TV, turn the radio volume up and listen to this, because you are going to learn a lot. It is a very exclusive interview, and mashallah, we are very lucky and blessed to have Imam Sahib with us. So do listen very attentively. If any brothers or sisters want to join in with the program, then you can text us on 07535 432 996. That's 07535 432 996. Any brothers or sisters that might want to ask the Imam Sahib a question, by all means you can text us, and we will try our best to get this into our program today. So Imam Sahib, let's get this interview up and running. So let's start off with your childhood. What was your childhood like? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalatu wassalamu alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulullah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Sayyidi ya rahmatan lil alameen. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My childhood, alhamdulillah, I was born in 1990.
MashaAllah.
So I'm 23 years old, so my childhood wasn't too far away that I can't remember. It's not something that I forgot. My childhood, the childhood extends till a person becomes a teenager. From what I have been told about myself in my childhood by my parents, that I was, you know how they use the term, inverted commas, shaitani bacha.
Right.
I was a bit of a terror in the house. From all my brothers, I was probably the liveliest one from them all. At that time, my mother said that I was very grumpy as a child.
Right.
So I'd keep myself to myself, but if I spoke, then I'd speak all the time. I was very lively, active. I was into my toys, like all kids are into their toys. I remember my Chacha, rahmatullah alayh, Allah grant him Jannatul Firdaus, used to buy me from the Sunday market loads of toys. He once bought me a bike. So as a child, I grew up in the neighborhood in Bradford. It was BD8 at that time on Drummond Road, and I remember a lot of my childhood friends that I went to the primary school that I went to then, and we used to all link up and meet up to go play football, and we used to chill out on the street in those days. Those days, I'd say the streets were safer than they are now. Going back now, I'd say 18, 19 years ago, maybe, I'm 23 now, a bit more, maybe 15 years ago. 15 years ago, it was a little bit more safer than the current situation now.
Yeah.
So, alhamdulillah, my childhood I spent like this. I studied my Quran in madrasa. I learned how to read the Quran, studied the Quran. At that age, I didn't have an active interest, a keen interest in seeking knowledge of the deen. It never had crossed my mind, nor my parents' mind. That came a little after, which possibly you might ask anyway.
And we are going to be moving on to that question soon. So you've talked about your childhood. Can you remember what kind of a person you were at school?
I remember most of my reports that they would give at the end of the year they said he doesn't know when to stop talking. So talking is something that I think I've been gifted with since I was a child. Something that I've been doing for a very long time, to talk. So I was at times a disruptive child in school, to be honest and frank. This is obviously, as children we generally tend to be, you're either very quiet, you're very disruptive, or you're in between, kind of, you know, you're kind of a junior mature person.
Yeah.
But I was kind of disruptive, used to talk a lot, used to love seeking attention, and these things as a child. I remember very clearly I was told that as well. So alhamdulillah, I hope I'm different now.
So we've heard your speeches and your talks so many times. YouTube is full of them, alhamdulillah. We hear you mention your mother a lot in your talks. Tell us about what sort of an effect she has had on your life.
MashaAllah, my mother has had probably the most positive and most daily and regular occurrent influence in my life than anyone. From childhood, my mother always gave us good tarbiyah. So morals and etiquettes which parents should instill into their children, they instilled that into me from a very young age. I remember the ma'mul in our house, the norm in our house would be that if guests came, we wouldn't sit in the same room as guests. My mother would send us upstairs and said, you stay to one side because these are guests. If food was put in front of the guests and we were there, we wasn't allowed to eat from that food. I remember at times I did eat. I'd pick one or two and my mum would reprimand me there and then and say, no, that's bad adab, this is food for the guests that we have. I remember that my mother, tarbiyah, she never let me out often. Especially, not in my childhood. Childhood we did play in the garden and stuff, but when we got to the vulnerable age, the teenage years, my mother didn't allow me to go out, go to boxing, stuff like that. I had friends who used to come knock on the door and they'd say, look, let's go. I mean, I was going to say, Imam Sab, let's go. I wasn't an Imam then. Say, come, let's go, we go boxing. We plan it in school. I'd say, look, I know my parents, you come and ask them. And they wouldn't dare come again. My mum would open the door and say, he's not going. But it's all hikmah, wisdom that she has. And then I remember there was the traditional long lectures that she would give us. 2, 3 hours, 4 hours a day. At night she'd sit us down and she'd tell us, this is not right, this is not wrong, this is this is that. She'd tell us everything. My brothers will vouch for this. My mother gave a lot of time to us. And that is why we are who we are. Me, my brothers. It's because she gave us time and attention. Had she not given us that time and attention, I don't think we'd be. I think today my mother said it. She says, mothers don't give attention to their kids. Giving attention to your kid doesn't mean just giving them food on the table or washing their clothes. That is part of the normal that a child has to do. Giving attention to the child is sitting with the child and telling him what the deen is. Telling them what is right, what is wrong, how to stand, how to sit. That is real attention. That's where parents and particularly mothers are neglecting their children. And I urge the sisters and mothers at home, the sisters who will become mothers to be, that they learn from, in my case, my mother's life, how she brought me up, and the influence and effect that she's had on my life. I mean, I will no doubt be indebted to her for the rest of my life. I am who I am because of my mother. One of the most famous talks I've ever done was on mothers.
In Sheffield, I believe.
In Sheffield. It was one of the most famous talks. At that time I wasn't at home, I was travelling up and down the country, mostly in London. My riaish and my stay was in London at that time. I remember ringing her, getting du'as from her. She instilled barakah and into that du'a. There was the barakah in the du'as and everything. I must say that my mother gave a lot of attention, a lot of time, and it's because of that one speech, I said to my mother, 60 people were sat there, but over 60,000 people have seen it on YouTube. And I was quite, I've said it to my mother. My mum always said it to me. She says, you are who you are because of the du'as of your mother. And I said, no doubt. I will never dispute that. My mother's made me who I am.
Moving on from your mother, what kind of person is your father? Tell us more about him.
My father is the most clean-hearted person I've met. He's the most hospitable person I've met. He's the most chilled-out person I've met. He has a very easy life. He doesn't handle the bills, nothing. He goes work, comes home, food's there, iron, clothes are ironed. My dad, alhamdulillah, you know, it's not just the mother, I have great parents. I don't talk much of my father. I make dua that Allah Almighty gives them tawfiq to become more practicing in the deen. But my father, he has other great qualities which people don't have. And it's those that I look up to. My father's very straightforward nature. My father's principles. He had a certain principle that he lives in life. And a lot of people say that he's a resemblance and he is a copy of his father, my grandfather. My grandfather was known for his sakhawat and generosity. He was very, very famous in our village for his generosity. Tens of people would come to the house, and my grandmother, my dadiji, rahmatullah alayha, she would cook for them. And my grandfather, rahmatullah alayhi, he would be hospitable towards them. My father grew up in that house, seeing that. The food was there, and my father themselves are a person who's hospitable. I have guests who come to my house all the time, and my father would come in, meet the guests, sit with them, chill with them, give salam to them, you know, ask them how they are, do what is required from the host. And my father, alhamdulillah, is a taxi driver. He works hard. He works very hard to earn, to provide for us, his family, and most importantly, it is his money who bought us our education. My mother's a housewife. She doesn't work. She's always been at home. My father's worked. He's grafted very hard to make us who we are. So my father had to work and be there as a breadwinner in the house. My mother had to give tarbiyah. When all of this comes together and there's the right nucleus in the family, then you get a pious offspring, you get good children in the end.
So you've talked very frankly about your mother and your father. How many brothers and sisters are you, and where do you come in the order?
We are 4 brothers in total. I have no sisters, unfortunately. I believe sisters are rahmah in the house. Even though they are a test, they are a rahmah in the house. It can be testing when they grow up. And in the society that we live in, it's very, very hard now to protect our sisters from what is around us. However, if the house is good, then outside external influences can't influence much within the house. So in my house, and I urge those who are parents at home listening, who understand, brothers at home who are listening, if your house is good, then your sisters will be good, inshallah, as well. And they will not be influenced by what is outside. We are 4 in total. I have an elder brother who, alhamdulillah, recently graduated from Jamia al-Karam. He studied there for 3 years. He's known as Imam Adil. He currently is in Ramadan, this Ramadan, serving in London as a khatib and as the Imam doing the daily durus in London at this moment in time. He's 24 years old, 1 year, 1 month, 1 week, and 1 day older than me.
Exactly 1 day.
Yeah, he's. I was born in. He was born 1989 January. I was born 1990 February. He was born on the 7th. I was born 7 days later on the 14th. 14th of February. And I think his is Tuesday, mine's Wednesday. And we joke and say maybe 1 hour, 1 minute as well. So I don't know. He's my elder brother, 1 year, 1 month older than me, and 1 week as well. I come number 2 in the line. I'm 23 years old, 14 February 1990, and I forgot what I was going to say about myself. He's my elder brother. I'm younger than him. Then I've got 2 younger than me. One is a Hafiz of the Quran, Hafiz Asad. He will be going to Jamia al-Karam for 6 years, inshallah, to study up to the level of a mufti. Me and my elder brother are going back for 3 more years in September. So next month, there's only a month left. I'll be going back to study 3 more years in Jamia. My elder brother will be there, my younger brother will be there. My younger brother is 19 years old. He was born in January the 31st. He's 19 years old. He did Hifz, he did it in 5 years, and alhamdulillah this year he's listening to the Quran at my Sheikh's place, Qibla Mufti Sahib's place, Al-Markaz al-Islami in Bradford. And my youngest brother is 12 years old. He is born in August. His birthday is probably next week, I think, sometime. He's 12 years old. He is becoming a Hafiz of the Quran now. I think he's done 5 juz of the Quran by heart. I make dua for him that Allah grants him the knowledge of the Quran and the Sunnah.
Ameen.
And Allah makes him into a very, very learned scholar and servant and khadim of this deen. His aspirations to be like me, my aspirations that he is better than me.
So that leads me on to the next question very nicely. You've had so many choices to become whatever you wanted in your life. What made you want to become an imam at such a young age?
Till about 15 years old, I must have wanted to be every profession in the world. Footballer, boxer, rugby player, cricketer. I must have wanted to be everything. I was into all sports, I was into these things. Even times I used to think I wanted to be a gangster. There's loads of things as a child. You always think I'm going to do this. I never thought of being a doctor or a lawyer, funnily enough. Never crossed my mind. Everything but that. Being an imam didn't cross my mind. When I was 15 and the change in my life came, the turning point came, and I came onto this path. I remember sitting in Itikaf 10 days, 8 years ago, this Ramadan. It's my 8th-year anniversary of being in this path. And I remember that I wanted to study the deen. I met a brother. I'm sitting in Nafli Itikaf this year. So I'm going in and out for my talks, and then I go back and stay the night in the Markaz where I'm in Bradford at Markaz al-Islami, Qibla Mufti Sahib's place. I remember one brother, he sat there now and he said to me, he goes, I remember when you told me 8 years ago. He met me this year. And he goes, Imam Sahib, do you remember when you said to me that you wanted to be on this path and you wanted to learn the deen? And he goes, I remember he was next to me in that tent, and he reminded me of that today, yesterday. And I actually didn't remember, but he reminded me that I said it to him, I shared that with him. So he's one of those that they can say that I remember him before he was who he is now. And when he wanted, he made his niyyah in itikaf to be on this path. And then when I went to Jamia al-Karam, that door opened up. I went to study the 3 years. I was in awe of Qibla Pizar Sahib's personality, their character, the way they worked, what they did, and the confidence they instilled inside me. And they spotted the talent, they seen something, and they said, look, before anything, I think you should be an imam. So that's where it kind of came to fruit, what the intention was at 15, 16 years old. Because I used to do a lot of talks in Jamia. They heard them, they said, you should be an imam. So for 3 years I went and became an imam in London, from 19 till 22. 19 till 22, yes. For 3 years solid I was an imam of a masjid in London, and Pizar Sahib put me onto this path, and I experienced the experiences an imam goes through, and the hardship and the work and so on and so forth. So that's how the imam side of me came about, from the itikaf, the intention starting there, then going and practicing and studying in Jamia, and then going to London and practicing, and now that I'm a full-time khatib, more than an imam.
So what motivates you then?
Motivates me, wow. I have loads of motivation. Pizar Sahib is a big motivation. Just looking at him and wanting to be like him, it's a massive motivation. I think is the most, from the ulama in this country, without any biasism, what Pizar Sahib is achieving and has achieved, very few people can equate to him.
Are you referring to Muhammad Imdad Hussain?
Hussain Pirzada. Hazrat Qibla Sheikh Muhammad Imdad Hussain Pirzada in Jamia al-Karam, Nottinghamshire.
And he's the son of...
he's the Khalifa of Pir Muhammad Karam Shah Sahib rahmatullah alayhi. He's the main student. MashaAllah. Pir Karam Shah Sahib is my grand sheikh, and I am the Khalifa of their Khalifa.
MashaAllah.
So I have links to Pir Karam Shah Sahib rahmatullah alayhi in that sense. I never met them as they passed away when I was very young, and I had no attachment to Zuzia Lummat and Pirzada Sahib at that time. But Pizar Sahib is a big motivation for me. A big motivation is Qibla Mufti Sahib, Mufti Qazi Hassan Raza, is a big motivation. I am motivated in terms of my talks through none other than Hazrat Maulana Muhammad Shafi Okarvi Sahib rahmatullah alayhi. I'm a big fan of Maulana Okarvi Sahib. He's for me the best speaker I've ever heard. I don't think I've heard a better speaker than Maulana Okarvi rahmatullah alayhi. He's a phenomenal speaker. He motivates me when I listen to him to speak the way I speak. At the same time, there are other motivations, reading about Islam. When I talk, it motivates me to talk more about the deen. So there's loads of motivations in my life, loads of people. My mother motivates me, my elder brother's a motivation, my father. So there's loads of things that motivate me to become or improve and become a better person.
Earlier you mentioned about i'tikaf, that i'tikaf was a turning point for you. MashaAllah, there's brothers that are sat i'tikaf all around the country, and in this masjid especially there's 5 brothers that are sat i'tikaf, and not a single one has got a white beard. They're all young people, So what advice would you give to them? They're listening outside. What advice?
My advice to them would be that make most of these days. These days are very, very special days in the year. 10 days in i'tikaf where there's no dunya, nothing, just you and Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Make as much time as spending in ibadat as you can. Don't talk as much. Sit with the buzurgs, learn from them, learn from their experiences. If you have a learned individual amongst you, sit in his presence and learn from him. These are things that I did when I sat my first i'tikaf at the age of 15. My advice to youngsters for the future is that these elders will pass on, and we don't want it to get to a stage where there will be nobody sitting i'tikaf in the masjid. Let's now start sitting i'tikaf, this age now, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 25, 30, 35, 40-year-olds. Come sit i'tikaf in the masjid for 10 days, and then inshallah we will start a trend where youngsters will come sit i'tikaf regularly. Alhamdulillah, where I'm sitting, there are over 110 youngsters.
Subhanallah.
Over 110 youngsters sat i'tikaf there. In the presence of Qibla Mufti Saab, myself, other learned individuals as well. And they're doing workshops on the deen, learning about these things. So my advice is make most of this time. Boost your batteries, overcharge them, so that when you go outside, it's a good maintenance for them, so that they can be more practicing and develop.
You've mentioned Mufti Hassan Raza quite a few times in the last few questions and the answers you've given me. What sort of influence has he had on your life?
Influence as Qibla Mufti Saab is the first turning point. After my mother, it's Mufti Saab who has put me onto this path. They were the first individual whose presence I sat in, and I was in awe, and I fell in love with their character and everything. I met them before I met Pirzada Saab, and I must say, Qibla Mufti Saab was on a different level. It's just a person on a different level, and the nature that Qibla Mufti Saab has. Alhamdulillah, our relationship is still going strong 8 years on now. I did bayah with them in Ramadan when I was 17 years old. So going back now 6 years. This year is my 60th anniversary of being murid of Qibla Mufti Saab. So Alhamdulillah, it was on the 28th night of Ramadan that I did bayah with them inside Masjid, Jamia Masjid Hanfiya in Bradford. So these were, they're a key individual in my life. The influence they've had is phenomenal, and I'm indebted to them and Qibla Pirzada for whatever they've given me.
Imam Sahib, I'm going to break this one up a little bit now. Do you have a phobia?
Phobias, I don't know. I used to have a phobia of spiders. Now spiders are not an issue for me. Spiders are fine. Mice, I am slightly frightened, even though we are bigger than them, but they are mice. Is something about mice sometimes maybe. Other phobias, I don't know. I'm scared of heights. That's maybe if that goes into phobia. I'm scared of heights. I can't stand being high in a high place. It does freak me out kind of. So heights is a phobia that I have. I'm not scared of the dark. Nothing like that.
So the world's tallest mosque is out of bounds for yourself then?
Yeah, I don't want to be khatib of that mosque.
We were thinking of getting you up on the balcony of our Islamic Centre. Looks like that's out of the question as well now.
I'll stay on the floor.
What's your favourite car and why?
Nissan Skyline GTR R35 is a good car. Fits kitted up to about 600 bhp. Audi RS4. I remember sitting in an RS4 and getting the head rush, going at 140 miles an hour in my friend's car. Audi is a very good car. Skyline is a very good car. I'm in love with Mercedes now because I've got a Merc myself. My friend has a CLS 55. I met Amir Khan's brother, Harun Khan, on the motorway, and he had Amir's C63. So, and yesterday I was at their house as well, and I seen it. So, the big sports cars, they do kind of keep me going at times. I do like the head rush, bit of speed, no harm in a bit of speed.
No harm at all.
As long as it's controlled, as my good friend Qasim would say.
Yeah. You travel a lot around the country.
Yeah.
What do you listen to in your car?
I do a lot of traveling. If I told you the mileage I've done in the last 9 months about 40 to 50,000 miles. Some serious mileage in about 9 months. That's including Milad Sharif and stuff like that. I've had to change a car. What do I listen to? I listen to Nusrat, Fatih Ali Khan's Qawwalis. I'm a big fan of Qawwali. I'm Chishti from Pizar Sahab side. So Chishtis listen to Qawwali. I'm Naqshbandi from Mufti Sahab side. So Naqshbandis don't listen to Qawwali. So I've got a bit of both, so I can mix and match whatever I want. I have that choice. So I do listen to Qawwali at times. I had something about classical music. There's something about classical music, I don't know. Sometimes that does come on, classical FM. If it's gone, then I'd leave it on a bit of Mozart or something. I listen to a lot of Maulana Muhammad Shafi Uqabi Sahab Rahmatullah Alayhi's talks. It does get me through a lot of the week. Maulana Uqabi Sahab's talks gets me through journeys. I get inspired by it. Especially when they go into the tarz. When they do the Sher Shari into the tarz, it's my kayfiyat and iman goes to a different level. The feeling I get from that.
Another quite weird question, but I'm going to ask you this out of general curiosity. If you had a choice of taking 3 things with you on a desert island, what would they be and why? But you've never been asked that question before.
No, I haven't, and I don't think that circumstance or situation will ever come. So this might be my iman talking. I would take a Quran with me, as I'm not a hafiz. I think the Quran will protect me in every circumstance. So if there is a snake there, the Quran is there to protect me. What else would I take? Maybe a tasbih to do dhikr of Allah Almighty. These are quite, from an iman's perspective, not an imam's. An iman, from my own iman. My iman would say take these things. And maybe I take, the whole dunya is parked to read namaz anyway, so musalla wouldn't be much of an issue. But I'd probably, because my neck sometimes hurts, take a nice pillow to sleep on. Bit of dunya in there. But these are things, so probably I would take something like that. And probably a stock of food until I die.
That's 4 things now, but yeah, that's fine. You reference a lot of street lingo in your bayans. You have become an imam at such a young age. Surely you wasn't a bad boy, but how do you know all these things?
I think we've got to differentiate speaking street lingo and the choice of language or the choice of phrase I use to slightly the bad boy image and mentality. The reason why I use this approach with the youth is that they can relate to it. I've had a lot of people who, positive examples and success stories where they said we can relate to the way you speak. And there's a fine line between professionalism and unprofessionalism. And alhamdulillah, I don't like to delve into the unprofessional approach of speaking. I think that will tarnish it. Until today, I've never ever used foul, abusive language within my talks. But I've used lingo, certain words, certain ghetto street language, ghetto terms, which I feel that the youth relate to. But they're within the etiquettes of professionalism. And I've been able to, alhamdulillah, master this. And now a lot of speakers are doing that. They're trying to take this approach, which is a successful approach for the young generation. And they've related to that. And alhamdulillah, it's worked wonders for me. To be able to do that.
Why is it important to stay on the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah?
It is important to be on the haqq, which is the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, because it is something that not only in this dunya will be of benefit, but in our graves and in the akhirah as well. So I urge people that they learn about what they are, who they are, what Islam is, who the true ulama are, and to truly understand this. And that is the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. To learn from them, study from them, to sit in the presence of the ulama of the Ahl Sunnah. Everyone claims to be from the Ahl Sunnah, but we really do need to go out and check who is who and what is what in these circumstances.
We are building an Islamic Center for Education, the Azim Center, which we've named it. How important is it for us to have such centers, and what should the community do to support this cause and take advantage of its services?
Allahu Akbar. It's a very, very good question. I've done talks on this as well. There are more masajids than centers around the country. There are a lot of masajids around the country. The masjid has a certain purpose which it aims for and achieves and fulfills. The aims of a center are different from that of the masjid. Every Jamia masjid should have a center next to it. That center's purpose and aim should be to involve the community, to give facilities and to give opportunities to the youngsters, to the women, to the sisters, brothers, to come to that center to learn at the deen. It's even more impressive that the center is known as Azim Center, after saying the Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. It's most possible, I don't know, you'll know better than me, that the funds probably came from the Yarmishri Fund.
Certainly.
And that Yarmishri Fund probably was built. Now that fund, instead of being spent on food, which people eat all the time, is being spent on building a center in the name of Ghausia Azam and a Sadaqah Jariyah for yourselves as a hadiyah and a gift for Ghausia Azam radiallahu ta'ala and Nazrana to them. It is so good to see that. When I heard, when Qibla Hafiz Awais was telling me, I was impressed by that. That is the blueprint of what our masajid need to do. And in those centers, how does the community support that? Financially, by sending the children there, by, if you have educated people in your families, by them offering services in there, and doing and achieving jobs in this manner, achieving the purpose in this manner. So the whole community gets involved. What we don't want, and the downside is a center to be built and nobody going there. Spending all that money and no kids are going to study there. That's a waste. So that's why it's important that a good structure and system is put in place. That's where the youngsters come in. That's where yourselves and the likes of Hafiz Awais and the other young brothers who are here in Batley, it is their responsibility to be given the opportunity by the elders to be able to run these places, to be able to bring young people in and to give them the service. Until we don't bring this, we will not get a change. The elders have to trust the youngsters a bit more. They've got to allow them to have the freedom to express. And these centers are structured. Because we are young people born and bred in this country, we have gone through a structured educational system. We understand that. We've gone through the GCSEs, A-levels, universities. So we know what discipline, structure, professionalism is. We need to run these centers in a professional manner and capacity. And that's the key. Sisters need to come forward who are trusted, who are honest, to be able to take responsibility to run aspects for the sister side. So these are things that we need to do. If I had my center, you can imagine how I'd run it. If this is how I think and how I speak, you'd know exactly how it'd be. My blueprint, I'd have 5-a-side football pitch there. Just for the kids, come in, you play 5-a-side football, anything you want to do. Next to it is a masjid, next to it is a madrasa. The masjid, people will come read Salah Jummah. Small masjid, not massive. And we'll have a big madrasa there where you will have boarding students coming to learn and seek the deen. And we'll have counselling services where people can come and take counselling. All of these things. I know they like radical ways, but I'm sure if I was to say this to young people, would they support? I think 110% they would support. Because they said that's the way forward. I hope the elders who are listening will also allow this opportunity and freedom for the young people, not just in Batley, but all around the Muslim world. Most importantly in the UK, Bradford, in these places were heavily populated. The masajid allow the young people in. That is the only way the masjid will move forward.
That leads me on to the next question I wanted to ask you. One of the main purposes that we want to use this centre for is a centre for Islamic education for girls, for our sisters, for our mothers as well. So what role should women play in our society today?
I think the role that our sisters should play is that they should know that there is a service that is being offered to them now. For a long time in the past, what has happened is that the masjid hasn't catered for the sisters. So where do the sisters get their tarbiyah from? Where do they learn the education from? They didn't have nowhere to go. Now, alhamdulillah, people are starting to change a bit more. They're starting to realize that we do need to involve sisters. We need to offer them services. Now that opportunity has arisen for sisters to come forward and get actively involved in this. The role they should play is of, this masjid should produce alimas, should start up alima classes. Those sisters who can't travel far should come here on the weekends, part-time alima classes, maybe full-time alima classes if the teachers are available. Start this and prepare today's sisters who will be mothers of tomorrow. And if today these sisters are educated with the deen, then tomorrow their roles as mothers in society will be one of greatness. They will give the right education, right tarbiyah to their children, the future generations. But if we are not catering for the sisters now, and now is the most testing time, if we are giving the sisters freedom to go and be whatever they want outside, which is not a major thing, whether they're doctors, lawyers, that's fine, that's their own choice. I'm not objecting against that. But if we don't offer them the deen, that we have alimas prepared, hafizas prepared, you know, pious young sisters who learn the deen, if we don't offer them now, then what's going to happen in the future? What's going to happen to the children? We'll have plenty of nurses out there. We'll have plenty of solicitors and lawyers that assist us and women. But we won't have enough alimas. We're already going through a drought. We don't have many that we can name. And if we carry on in this manner, then we're not going to have any at all. We will not have sisters catering for sisters. And alhamdulillah, with this center, whose main aim and one of its main aims is to cater for the sisters and to provide services for them to learn and to realize their role and responsibilities as mothers, as sisters, as wives. This is a very good step that this masjid has taken towards building this center to achieve that and to offer that service to them. So their role should be of one that they are actively participating in this. And if I say today that they should participate, I go, and that service is not offered to them, then they would say, well, we're being told otherwise. So I hope the masjid does involve sisters to come forward, to learn the deen, to study the deen, to express the deen, and then to go and spread the deen as well, inshallah.
Another question that I've been asked to ask you is the Ahl Sunnah is very divided at the moment in matters such as salah timings, for example, and many other matters out there. How can we unite our own? And what would you do? Big question.
It's a big question. I might offend a few people with my opinion, but again, this is just my opinion. This is what I believe. In a realistic, ideal world, not in a world of conflict and differences and disputes, we should appoint one leader. That one leader has a council of great ulama who can tolerate differences. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, "Ikhtilafu ummati rahmah." The difference in my ummah are rahmat. What's happening today is instead of being a rahmah, they're becoming an azab. People have become very personal in these issues. Whether it's the 18-degree rule, whether it's the 15-degree rule, whether it's when Fajr begins, when Fajr ends. All of these issues, they are more and more becoming a major problem and causing divisions. When one, they are fiqh issues, not aqaid related, and issues which, you know, if you do 18 degrees, brother, I tolerate you. No problem, you do 18. You have your dalil, you have your proof, you do it. If you do 15, you have your dalil, you have your proof, you do it. What's happened is, our people are not tolerating no more. Tolerance is the key. Until we don't tolerate one another, especially amongst Ahl Sunnah, we're not going to be united. And right now, Ahl Sunnah is divided. Everyone has their own color. Everyone has their own choice. One person won't sit in the other's gathering. The other won't sit with the other. My question is, who are we working for? Are we working for Allah's raza, the pleasure of Allah Almighty, or are we working for ourselves? So this is my urge is to the youngsters, because I talk to them more than anyone. I talk to them more than I talk to the elders. That I urge the youngsters, don't get embroiled in these things. Leave these matters to the ulama. Let the scholars dispute and differ on these issues. And I make dua that the ulama can tolerate one another. And most importantly, that the youngsters can tolerate others. If I've done bad to one sheikh, and you've done bad to another sheikh, I should respect you for who you are. I should respect your sheikh because he's from the Ahl Sunnah. I should love him as I love my own because he's from the Ahl Sunnah. What we find is, I'll give you an example. Pizar Sahib is an unbeliever man. You know, they gave a great example. They said, if you are a khatib of a masjid, and a masjid 1 mile down the road has appointed a new khatib, 300 of your followers have gone to that masjid. It's a Sunni masjid. It's a Sunni khatib. And they're listening to him. You shouldn't be jealous. You shouldn't feel bad and think, why are they leaving me? You should be happy and saying at least they're going to the right place. Who thinks like that? As you can there, number cut again. Sara number cut gaya. We don't want our numbers to go down. People being free, it's a numbers game. No, it's not. We work for Allah's Raza. We work for the Ahl Sunnah, Rasulullah salam. We should think like this. We should respect one another. Alhamdulillah, you're from Ahl Sunnah, Bismillah. Until we don't unite amongst ourselves, how do you expect to unite the world? Everyone says unite the ummah, unite the ummah. If there's fitnas and disunity in your own house, then in your own khandan and family, then disunity in the community, then disunity within the masajids, then how do you expect big unity in the ummah when the small issues were not united? One brother can't talk to a brother. This is why until tolerance, to be able to tolerate one another is not there, then these things won't be there. So my urge and advice is, let's tolerate one another, especially those who are from our Jamaat, those who are Sunnis. We need to unite amongst ourselves. We are always coming under attack by the Bad Aqidah, Bad Maslaks. They are attacking us for our Aqaid. They are saying, look, they don't even know how to agree on a degree rule. They are fighting over whether it's Haq Char Yar or Haq Sab Yar. They're disputing over these nare. Never mind the big issues, the small issues they're fighting over. So my question, my argument, my understanding is this, that these youngsters don't get involved in these things. Read your Quran, read your Salah, follow the Imams of the Ahl Sunnah, follow your inspirations, your role models, and keep practicing the deen. Don't get involved in ikhtilaf. Leave the ikhtilaf to the ulama. Leave these differences to ulama. Don't bring them into the public domain and the public sector. Allah knows best in the end. Once again, this is just my opinion on what I feel.
We're approaching very closely to the end of our program. One final question. I had lots of other questions, but time unfortunately has run out. The last question that I want to ask you, Imam Sahib, is what do you hate the most in our society today? How would you eradicate that and make that a nasiha for our young brothers and sisters out there that are listening to end the program?
There's quite a few things that, anything that goes against Islam, any values that are un-Islamic, any opinions that are un-Islamic which don't conform with Islam, as a believer, as a Muslim, we shouldn't like that. We should look for Islam to be everywhere, as Muslims, as believers. There's so many things that you can point your finger at: gambling, alcohol, drugs, the free mixing that goes on. These are problems that we can't stand. The black magic issues, all of these problems that are happening out there. I'd love that none of them were there. I love we lived in a time like Sayyidina Umar's time, where there was aman and sakoon everywhere, ittifaq and ittihad, one ruler, one leader, and we all followed him. You know, if only it was like. But again, that's a dream, inshallah, one day when the Imam Mahdi will return, or when Imam Mahdi we shall come and Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam will return, and there will be aman and sakoon in the world. I hope that we see those days in our time, in our lifetime, and aman and sakoon and these things. So these are things that I would like to see eradicated from our societies. The ego problem that we have, the anger management, all these issues. There's so many, it's such a vast question, I could do a full speech on it. I generally, if you want to know how I feel on these things, then listen to my talks and the nasiha that I give on these things.
So tell us about how you are promoting your work on social media, on the media. Let us know about.
I think I've kind of I've taken the social media approach. I think from amongst the ulama at this moment in time, I've probably used social media to its maximum advantage as possible. Facebook, Twitter, I have over 20,000 people on Facebook now, over 5,500 on Twitter. So there's a lot of people following on social media. YouTube's filled with a lot of my talks. Alhamdulillah, Ahl Sunnah speaker. I'm talking on a lot of contemporary issues, religious issues, Aqaid related issues as well. So alhamdulillah, I've got a website coming. I hope everyone will check this website out, www.imamasim.com, where you can ask questions to me. There's articles that you can read. There will be all my talks on there. Clips will be on there which you can circulate by WhatsApp and Facebook. 4 5-minute clips is a new initiative that I want to take from the Ahlul Sunnah perspective. There's loads of things coming up inshallah, so they can utilize. I urge all the young ulama to use social media to their advantage. Everyone is using it. All the biggest pop stars, see the likes of Eminem, they have got 33 million, 34 million followers. So they're using these things to their advantage, then we can use it for the sake of Islam and to be beneficial for our younger generation and for the Muslim community.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah Imam Asim Hussain, Damat Barakatumul Aliyah. You've taken some of your very precious time out for our radio show today, and we do thank you from the bottom of our hearts for coming, and may Allah Azza wa Jal bless yourself, may Allah bless your knowledge and increase your knowledge, and may Allah give us all the ability to follow Imams like yourself and become good followers of leaders like yourself, and may Allah Azza wa Jal accept our du'as, and may Allah Azza wa Jal also accept the work that you're doing as well. Jazakallah once again from the bottom of our heart. And one massive thank you I would like to also give it to is our brother Awais. MashaAllah, he is the one that's organized this talk and this interview today, which is a very exclusive interview. We were asking Imam Sahib earlier on, how many interviews like this have you done? And he's not done many. So it's a very, very exclusive interview, and Jazakallah for brother Awais for setting this up. At the end, inshallah, I would like to request brother Awais to read a naat. There was one question on that, Imam Sahib. I'm trying to ask you very quickly. What's your favorite naat?
My favorite naat, I love Allah Hazrat Azimul Barakat Rahmatullah alayhi's kalam. Imam Ahl Sunnat's kalam, he has Nemate Banta Jisim to Uzi Shan Gaya in the beautiful tarz, Chamak tu se paate hain sab paane wale. That's a beautiful naat. Subha teba mein hui barta hai bara noor ka. So I love Qasida Burda. I love the Ya Imam al-Rusuli, the Arabic nasheeds as well. I'm not into the English as much at all. It's more the Urdu Punjabi, and the Kalam of Allah Hazrat is something that I am immensely in love with. But from all of them, I think the best naat in a certain way you can understand this is the Quran. Listening to the Quran is the best naat. That is the naat of Rasulullah. That is Allah's naat for the Prophet. But something that I generally would love to listen to is Allah Hazrat Chamak tu se paate hain sab paane wale. That is a very beautiful naat.
चमक तुझसे पाते गए सब पाने वाले, चमक तुझसे पाते गए सब पाने वाले, मेरा दिल भी चमका दे चमकाने वाले, मेरा चमका दे चमकाने वाले, मेरा दिल भी चमका दे चमकाने वाले, बरसता